What's going on, everyone? This is Jim from RC After Dark. Today is Friday, October 27th, 2017. Doing a little work on this boat trailer that I had bought for my NQD. This has a solid axle mount, no suspension. I'm going to try to install some leaf springs on this today. I used this boat trailer twice so far since I've had it. Works pretty good. 3D printed plastic. Like I said, solid mount axle. Need some leaf springs on there. I was towing it slow, but it could be better. Nevertheless, that's gonna be my project for tonight. I do have some red super soft leaf springs here. I'm not gonna use these on the trailer. I'm actually gonna put these on the back of my TF2, and I have some black ones on my TF2 that I'm gonna take off and put them onto the boat trailer. As far as having the black ones on the TF2, no reason. I just, was burning them up, going through the black ones before I ran up and went through the red ones. So that's the only reason they're on there. Nevertheless, I'm going to throw some leaf springs on this guy tonight. Before we get started, I guess I'll show you guys my Fender Flares that I made for it. Or not Fender Flares, but actual trailer fenders that I had made. Oops. I guess we could take the boat off the trailer. Make life a little bit easier here. These are Velcroed on for the time being. Yeah, I know that's ghetto. But I was just putting them on there for a rough fitment. Didn't know how good it was going to work out or whatever, but works out pretty good. So after we get the leaf springs on here and find out where everything's going to sit, we'll get to mounting these full time. But yeah, bottom of a plastic bottle is what I used. This is a plastic bottle. It's what my dog's glucosamine chewables come in. I basically just cut the bottom edge of the bottle off and then cut it right down the end here. And then boom, instant fender. Or inner wheel well if you have a small vehicle with relatively small tires and you need to make an inner fender well for it, like inside the front of the TF2 there. Plastic bottle, get the job done, relatively cheap. So nevertheless, onto the leaf springs here. I already got started on this a little bit. I loosened up the bunk mounts down here, slid the bunks out as far as they would possibly go. That way I'm going to have room to attach my leaf spring hangers here, or the perches, without getting in the way of the bunk. I'm going to have to glue these bunks in place. It's already marked with a pencil on the back edge of all of these, all the way around on both sides. I have to cut the plastic off the bottom on either side and glue the bunks onto these frame rails. Reason being is I'm using these Terraflex Z boxes, some leftovers, and I'm going to use these for leaf spring hangers or leaf spring mounts. Basically using this part and the two hangers here, taking this part off on the front. And this is basically going to get bolted to the frame. It's going to get bolted to the frame like so. If you can imagine this part not being here, now you have a set of spring hangers back here once it gets bolted to the frame. This other part I'm going to use on the front half for a spring mount. Now here's why this is getting in the way. This has got this tapered edge on the back of it. If you kind of line it up with the springs here on the center of the axle, see it's getting in the way with that plastic there. So plastic's got to go, and it's going to have to go on the front as well. That's why I need to just glue these mounts directly to the top of the frame, cut these plastic tabs off. For the front spring mount, I'm going to use this leftover piece right here. and another couple of hangers in here that are leftover RC four-wheel drive parts. So there's a couple of hangers right there. Don't know if that's the proper term for it, but so we're going to use this piece right here. If this all works out, screw it to the frame on the front like so, and then attach 2 more hangers to it, and then that's going to give me my front spring mount. And then all I have to do is come up with a spot to put some shocks on it. You see some scratches on the axle there where I was dragging it over some rocks on that run. So that's where we're at right now, guys. I'm going to glue these, or cut these tabs off, glue these rails on, and after that dries, drill some holes in to mount these leaf springs, and it should be a relatively quick process. So we'll get to working on that here real quick. Like I said, I did kind of half-ass measure these out. I don't know if I showed this in the beginning here. Like I said, these spring perches, these rails need to be out as far as they possibly can. I basically just put the boat upside down, laid this on the bottom of it in between the runs there on the bottom of the boat. And yeah, the front ones could come in just a little bit, but there's really nothing I can do about it. So I need these to be as spread out as far as possible. So good enough, I guess, for the time being. Close enough for my quality. Alright, let's get down to work here and cut these tabs off. And just FYI, I did put a 3S battery in it for my next run. I was going to take it out today, but it was raining all day, so raining and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So I didn't get a chance to take it out today, but I did put a 3S battery in it, so the next run, hopefully tomorrow, I'll get to see what it does on 3S. Alright, let's get to cutting these tabs off. And we are back, guys. We are back. That was quick, eh? Went from no suspension to full suspension. Alright, this took a lot of work, guys. It was only a second for you guys, but this literally took me all night. I worked on this till 8 o'clock in the morning. Today is now, it is currently Saturday night. I started this on Friday night, and it is currently Saturday. So, I finished this at 8 o'clock in the morning, or I got to this point at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I just put it down and didn't pick it up till now. And it's currently 11 o'clock at night on Saturday. So doing some true RC After Dark action here. Alright, what we got going on here. Those are the Z boxes. I had to zip tie this shackle right here. I had to zip tie it down to the base on the Z box to make this a solid mount on the front, just to turn into a regular standard perch. Now, you know, I'm sure there's many better ways of doing this. I just did this with what I had laying around. All leftover parts. Everything is left over. Terraflex Z boxes left over from when I originally built my TF2. Just the ones that I was going to put on the front. The red super soft leaf springs, I was going to put these on the back of the truck, but I used them for the entire design process, so I kind of just left them on there. These rear shackle mounts here, these are the front half of the Z boxes. Or this is the front half of the Z box with a set of hangers that were left over from the RC four-wheel drive once again, because I put Z boxes on the back and Terraflex revolvers on the back. I have Terraflex revolvers on the front, so I have many of these leftover parts from my RC four-wheel drive kit. So this lower part that's clamped to the frame is from the Z box, and then the two little arms there are just leftovers from the RC four-wheel drive. Now on to putting suspension onto it. This is a solid axle, obviously. But these two black tabs right here and this strut are all part of a 4-link system. I had to cut off 2 tabs that were here. There's like a little ear right here for mounting a screw, another one right here, and another one right over here for the trailing arms that would come off this axle, or off of an A axle. Sorry about that. Looking at it forward, it looks like it's off center. It's right through here, but it is off center. But I took that 4-link system off of this axle that I was going to put on the back of my truck. Since I'm running leaf springs on my truck, I didn't need the 4-link system. So I pulled the 4-link system off of this axle. The reason it has that curve in it is to match the differential housing. So that's why there's a little curve on that strut bar there, or 4-link bar. The reason I used the 4-link bar was so I could make shock mounts on the back, because there was nowhere to attach some shock mounts to it. The tires are just sitting on here. There was no room to attach shocks to this. Alright, sorry, I paused for my dog to get her little barks out. So the only reason I put this 4-link system on here was so I could attach these rear shocks. I had used some really long screws through here. I think these are like 26mm screws. And then I had to put a little chunk of rubber right back here. This is like a little rubber hose for a spacer, just for some cushion. If the shocks were too far out, it started to bind on the suspension. And then just have a washer and a lock nut on the back edge. Once again, nowhere to mount suspension, and I need to keep the shock mounts below where the boat's sitting, so the boat's not going to scrape on any of this stuff. What I use for the front, and this is such a rig, I'm sorry guys, this is not professional at all. Not just the camera angles, but what we're looking at here. This attachment piece right here is a spring perch off the front of a trail finder too. Each side, there's one side of a spring perch, and this is the other side of a spring perch, like for the left side and for the right side. The spring perch is like L-shaped, the actual spring perch, and we'll take a look at that on the truck so you can see what we're looking at here. Alright, so this is part of a spring perch right here. These 2 screws would bolt onto the frame, and then the leaf spring would actually sit where the single screw mount is on the bottom. I had no way of attaching shocks to this. I used 80mm shocks that were the stock shocks off the front of my trail finder. It really kind of needs smaller shocks for it, like maybe 70mm would probably be okay. But once again, this is all I had laying around. The smallest shocks that I had were 80 mils, so I had to try to make it accommodate the 80mm shocks. This is just clamped around the frame. The 1 screw on the bottom, clamping it in. Obviously the 2 on the top. Little plastic spacer going in between the shock and the actual mount, just to bring everything out a little bit, to try to get the geometry a little bit more correct. There was really no way to mount these guys. I mean, I could have opposing would have been best, you know, one going this way across it and the other one going opposite on the front half of the axle, just because I don't have that much room to work with. But for what it is, it does actually function. Try to get this on an angle where you guys all can see. Support the chassis here. So we got full travel in the back, plus articulation. I don't know. Not too bad, I guess, for putting suspension on a trailer that wasn't meant to have suspension on it. I did reuse the bunks, so I didn't glue those back on. I just pushed them out to the farthest location that I possibly could, and the thinnest part of the boat fits right down here in the middle. Only problem with this setup is it sits up extremely high, really tall. So there's really no, I'm not, I'm not concerned about lifting the truck anymore, just because the trailer sits up so tall. It's actually kind of freakishly tall, so I don't know if I really like it or not just yet. All right, so there it is with the stock tires sitting on it. They're just sitting on there. That's hooked up to the back of the TF2. Now I've got the 1.9s off of my twin hammers on that because I was trying to lower the truck down or try to decrease the angle on the hitch is what I was attempting to do before I put suspension on it. But I'm going to put the other tires, the mudslingers, back on it for the moment and swap all those tires out. But just for example moments here, just for an example, you see how high the truck is sitting right now, or how high the trailer is sitting. That's sitting on that little homemade drop hitch that I made. Now if I moved it back up to this upper location, I guess that would simulate if I flip the tongue back around the way it's supposed to be sitting. If it was sitting flat, sitting flush on its normal mount, it'd probably be about that height, which is still pretty level with the truck, even though the truck's kind of sitting uphill a little bit. So, not too sure what I want to do here. It's actually tall enough right now that I can clear these mudslingers on the trailer with the boat on there. I was messing around with tires. I can put these tires on there. These are off of my WL Toys. I did have these on there for a second. Another viewer is kind of interested in these tires as well, so she would be disappointed if I started using them on the trailer. But I also have the stock tires that came off of my TF2, which are these tires right here. I put them on the twin hammers just to have some rolling tires, since I stole the twin hammer tires and put them on the TF2. So yeah, I can put these tires on the trailer as well. You know, that thing actually looks pretty good with those little tires on it, surprisingly. Those are the stock TF2 tires. All right, moving on. All right, so there it is with the boat sitting on the trailer. Now that is just, I don't know, man. It doesn't look right. It's ridiculously tall. And that was not easy for me to say. Just way too tall. I mean, great, I guess, for going off-road. Not with those tires on it. But too tall for a boat trailer, really. And with, you know, putting it up against the truck as far as overall height, I mean, geez, that's up in the air. And there we go. Talk about ridiculous, eh? Sitting on 1.9s. Resting on the highest point on the back of the truck. That's with the suspension sitting up all the way on the trailer. If I was to compress it as much as possible, it's still just ridiculous, man. Way too tall. Like I said, I can clear these tires, these 2.2 mudslingers, which aren't that big. They're what, 4.88 inches, but I can clear these tires. Looks pretty good with that beadlock sitting behind that black wheel. Nevertheless, so don't know. Trailer has suspension. That's a bonus, yeah. But look at the height that it added to it. And I don't know if there's really any way to get that to sit any lower. Get the boat to sit lower by probably gluing the bunks directly to the frame. But then I'm going to be hitting my shock points underneath there. Because I'm kind of relying on that gap that back there for clearance. As you can see, those shocks just barely clear the bottom of the boat. What do you do? What do you do? It's got suspension, you know, worked all night on that, but now it's just way up in the air. So I don't know. Do I leave it as an off-road trailer, or do I put smaller tires on it and take the suspension back off of it and keep it low to the ground. This is a rough decision, guys. It's going to affect a lot of things. It's going to be great for off-road, but not so good for launching the boat. Just do not know. Don't know what I want to do with it. Let me know, guys. Leave your comments or whatever, and let me know what you think. Should I leave it as the off-road trailer, or should I take the suspension back off it and leave it a solid axle mount and as low to the ground as possible with no suspension? It's a tough call. Like I said, it's definitely an off-road trailer at this point in time. It has the ground clearance for it. I mean, ultimately, I could, I know I'm eating up a lot of time here, guys, and I'm sorry for these lengthy videos. Ultimately, I mean, if I got smaller shocks for it, I could probably mount the axle on top of the leaf springs, and that would bring it up quite a bit. But at that point in time, now your axle's sitting up here. It's only going to give you less than an inch of movement as far as, suspension travel. It would probably be better off-road because your leaf springs would be underneath the axles. So they would be hitting an obstacle first. You don't almost be dragging the, almost like a skid or a ski. Dragging the axle over top of obstacles would be easier. Do not know. That suspension mount, I told you guys I was going to show you where that came from. Before we get to that, since we're still looking at the boat, there's what I was talking about with the rails. I've got them as far out as I possibly can, with still leaving these plastic tabs in place and still being, still holding on to the boat. Alright, excuse the waviness here. This is the underside of my TF2. I'm trying to hold the camera here. Right there. That little angled piece there. Which is a front leaf spring mount. I use 2 of those plates. And that's what I use for that shock mount on the back of the trailer. Just clamp 2 of those plates together, opposing each other. The other plate that you see there is has a slight angle to it. It comes down and then wraps around the frame. I was trying to use that too because it was more of a support. I could almost box the frame using it, but it was just no good angle for a shock mount using that. So once again, that is that piece right there, doubled up on either side. So that's it for now, guys. Trailer's done. It has full suspension on it. Need to go in there and do a little bit of painting on the back half of that 4-link mount that was on that axle. Not too sure, like I said, if I want to keep the suspension on it and keep it at this height, or if I should convert it back to a solid axle. Let me know in the comment section, guys. Anybody who cares. So that's it for now, guys. Trailer is done. It does have suspension on it. I did put a 3S battery inside the boat, so it's only a 2200 milliamp, but we'll see how long it lasts. Want to see what the boat's like on 3S as well. So the next time I run the boat, probably run the trailer jacked up like this, and we'll go off-road with it one time. And just for comparisons, before we do anything, I guess, better test it. And we'll see from there, I guess. Judging by your comments and how it handles off-road, we'll go from there. So this is Jim from RC After Dark. Thanks for watching, everyone. In the time being, I am going to take those tires back off of the TF2 and put them on the twin hammers. Put these guys back on the TF2. Like I said, I put those on there for 2 reasons. I was about to end the video here. I put them on there for 2 reasons. One, trying to lower the truck, decrease the angle going to the hitch, which I don't have to worry about anymore. And 2, those are the only set of tires that I have with a set of wheel weights in them, where I have lead weights going around the inner beadlock ring on there, along with the foams. So each tire and wheel combination weighs 9 1/4 ounces. So the one video, I'd actually rolled the truck over because these tires don't have any weights in them. They don't have any foam or weights. It's just, you know, sealed beadlock and whatever air is trapped in between. So it's a little mushy. Rolled the truck over. It's a heavy truck, but nevertheless, put those wheels on there for that added bonus as well, because there's, you know, 9 1/4 ounces per wheel holding this thing to the ground. So extremely heavy right now. But that's why another reason I put them in there. So I don't know. Maybe I'll throw some wheel weights in these guys too. Who knows? The night is early. But thanks for watching, guys. That's it for the trailer right now. It's just ridiculous looking, man. Just looks ridiculous. Anywho, that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching. This is Jim from RC After Dark, and we'll see you on the next video.